What's going on, world? This is Adolph from Flip the Table. Today I'm talking about a 2 to 8 player Kickstarter game that I just recently got in the mail a couple days ago called Steampunk Rally. It plays 2 to 8 players in about an hour or so. And in this game you're going to be drafting cards for tile placement and using dice to activate those cards, all in an effort to race your jalopy the fastest.
Alright, so let's take a look at what's inside this box here for Steampunk Rally. First thing you see is a nice rule book. Glossy pages, color pictures. Alright. Then we get our track tiles, which are double-sided. One's for an easier side, one's for a more difficult journey. I think there's 8 of those, 8 tiles double-sided for a total of 16. Then you get dice. Look at all these dice. I think there's 108 dice that come in this game altogether. And they're pretty nice quality, small translucent dice. We got the heat dice, the electricity dice, and the water dice. Very cool. You also get these nice little spinny things to keep track of your... Come on, focus. To keep track of your hit points as your jalopy takes damage over the course of the race. They came pre-assembled, which was nice because I always have a hard time pushing these little plastic pieces through the cardboard. Cool. And you get 8 of those, 1 for each player, and they're all the same. Awesome. Then you get 4 different packs of cards, which will serve for the different types of parts that will go onto your jalopy. You get a whole bunch of characters. I think there's 18 characters in this game, which all start off with a different starting piece, so variable player powers. And then my Kickstarter edition came with these pretty cool... Whoa! These pretty cool metal cogs. Let's see if I can open these up here. The regular version has the cardboard chips, 1s, 5s, and 10s, but the Kickstarter edition came with these nice metal cogs, and there's small ones for the 1s and large ones for the 5s. So, don't know if I'll be using them, but they're nice to have, I guess. Alright, let's see how the game is played. So here we are set up for a 2-player game of Steampunk Rally, and the setup is pretty straightforward. We are going to create separate pools of dice for our electricity, our water, and our heat dice. It's the yellow, blue, and the red. We're also going to have 4 separate decks here, consisting of parts and special action cards for our jalopies. Our player setup area is going to consist of the starting jalopy for the character. It's going to have a damage tracker, a player aid, and a great idea token. We're also going to have this arrow token, which we're going to flip to determine which direction the draft will happen. Off to the side here we have pools for our cogs and for any special action tokens that we may need throughout the game. The board is set up in a variable fashion, which you can choose beforehand or you can just make it up as you go. The only condition is that this finished tile must be adjacent to this, I guess the overrun track, so that in case you pass the finish line, you can still keep track of how many spaces you actually passed it by. We start with our 2 inventor tokens. We start with our 2 inventor tokens on the start space, and that's about it. The game of Steampunk Rally takes place over as many turns as you need to race your jalopy all the way down this track past the finish line. The player who goes the farthest past the finish line will win the game. Each round of Steampunk Rally takes place over 4 phases. The first phase is called the draft phase, and that's where these cards come into play. Each one of these decks has different parts to add to your jalopy. The 4th deck has a special ability card that you can use at a later time. When the phase begins, One player will flip this token to indicate which direction cards will be passed during the draft phase. After that's flipped, each player will then draw one card from each of these 4 decks. Now let's take a little bit to talk about what these cards actually mean. There's 2 main types of cards. There are cards that you can add to your jalopy, which usually have these little cogs on them, and there are these action cards. And they function pretty similarly. The only difference is that these will be added directly to your jalopy, and these will be face down to use now or later whenever you see fit. When you are drafting these cards, you will have a hand of 4 of them to begin with, and it will be up to you which one you would like to keep. Looking at these cards, we see here that this card will take up to 2 electricity to generate 2 movement and to remove a single die of a red color. I'll get more into that later. When you choose a card from your hand of 4 cards, you will flip it over in front of you and pass the remaining 3 cards to the person in this direction, which in a 2-player game, it doesn't matter. Pass them here. This player will do the exact same thing. They will look through their hand of 4 cards, choose the one that they like the best, and send the other 3 back over here. Now, after both players have chosen a card that they like, they'll both flip them over simultaneously and do one of 2 things. The first thing a player can do once they choose a card is that they can add this card to their jalopy if it is a piece. This is a piece of a jalopy, so I am able to add this card to my jalopy, which I will put, nowhere. And that brings me to, oh, actually, I can move this here and put that there. There we go. Now, the thing about these cards is you can play them wherever you like. They don't matter where they go as long as that you complete a cog when you put it down. You are free to rearrange your jalopy at any time during the game to make sure that you can fit as many pieces as possible. So if I had my jalopy set up like this, and I drafted this card, which does not have a matching piece, I can't put it on top of this one, and I can't put it here because I don't have the cog there, I would be free to move this here to a legal placement and then play this card here to another legal placement. Let's say I didn't want to play this card for whatever reason. I didn't want this power, I didn't like the card, whatever. I am free to discard the card, send it back to the discard pile, and take either 2 yellow dice, 2 yellow dice, or 2 cogs from the supply. But I'm going to choose to add it to my jalopy because I want to be able to do this action later in the game. Same thing will happen with this player over here. He will choose to put this piece wherever he likes, whether it be here or here, as long as he creates a cog when he puts it down. So we'll put it there. After both players have played their cards however they like, the draft continues. You'll do the same thing. You will choose one of the 3 remaining cards, pass the rest to your neighbor, and so on and so forth until all of 4 cards have been drafted. Alright, so after the draft was complete, I ended up with a jalopy that looks like this, and a jalopy that looks like this. And you can see they're kind of wacky looking jalopies here. I also discarded a card that will give me 2 yellow dice, and this person discarded a card that will give them 2 blue dice. They've also kept one of these boost cards that they can use whenever they like it. It could be now, it could be later, whenever they like. And they're going to tuck it right underneath there. Alright, so after the drafting phase, we ended up with 2 jalopies that look like this and like this, so totally different looking jalopies. I also ended up with 2 yellow dice and a boost card to use later, and my opponent ended up with 2 blue dice and another boost card to use later. Now, from all other turns except for the first turn, the second phase will consist of what's called venting. Now, throughout the game, you're going to end up with dice on your pieces here, and the only way to remove these dice is by venting them. And you can vent in 2 different ways. you can vent by spending a cog to reduce 2 pips worth of dice. So you can split that up, 1 for each die, or you can remove 2 pips from a single die. Once that die is lowered to below 0, or below 1, excuse me, that die will be removed. So in this case, I have a 3 and a 6. I could spend a cog to reduce this 3 to a 1, if I chose. It wouldn't take it off, but it would get me a step closer to get that die off. Now, I wouldn't be able to use this piece until I have a spot to play a die. But since this is the first turn, there should be no dice on your jalopies, and you will move directly to the 3rd phase. Alright, the 3rd phase is where all the action happens. This is the race. Each player will simultaneously roll all the dice that they have in their current die pool, and they will then choose to add them to their jalopy in any order that they like. Now, when I add these dice to my jalopy, I will immediately take the action that I get. So here, I put a 5 and a 1 on this part right here, which, well, I probably won't do that. I would put a 5 on this part. Now, over here, there is a die, and that will tell me what number I would have to divide the total that I put on here to get this action. So in this case, I put a 5. I would divide it by this 5, which is 1. And if there was a remainder, say this was a 6. If it's a 6, I would still divide it by 5, and that is 1. You'll ignore any remainders. So in this case, I would get to do this 1 time. If I had double 6s, I could play them both at the same time. 12 divided by 5 is 2. I would be able to do this twice. Now, I could also use cogs to raise the pip on one die by 1. So I could spend a cog to turn one of these to a higher value to hopefully get this above a 10 total, so I could do this twice. And I can do this in any order I like. Now, when this happens, I will get to move my jalopy 2 times and remove a red die. So that means if I had a red die, which I don't even have any red spots on my jalopy, but if I had a red die, let's just say here, even though I couldn't, it's not legal, this is a blue spot, but let's just say that it's red, I would be able to, when I do this, move twice and remove a red die, which would then free up that spot to use again. I can do this in any order as many times as I have dice for. Now at the end of this phase, whatever dice I have left in my pool get discarded back to the main supply here, and all the dice that are on my jalopy would stay until I either vented them off or used an ability, such as this, to take them off. Now the play happens simultaneously, so my opponent will be doing this the same time that I'm doing this, which will speed up the game significantly. Now for each movement that I've generated with my jalopy using these symbols here, I will immediately move my character the indicated number of spaces. So let's say I activated this, I would get to move my guy 2 times, and my guy is Albert Einstein. So we're going to take Albert Einstein, we're going to move him 2 spaces. 1, 2. Okay? And that happens immediately as soon as you do it. If you ever have to go through a spot on the board, or pass through a spot, not land on, but just pass through, your jalopy will take this much damage. So in this case 2. So I would come back here and I would spin this to -2. And that's bad, because when I'm done taking all of the actions that I can with my jalopy, if my jalopy is in the negatives, which it is currently, I will have to discard parts of my jalopy to bring this back up to 0. So in this case, I would have to discard two pieces of my jalopy to bring it back to 0. That's bad. I get to choose which ones get discarded, but that's still a pretty significant blow into my racing efforts here. So if I choose to discard this card, these yellow dice go back to the pool with it. And this card is gone forever. There are also some other symbols on the map, such as this one here. This one says that I can spend a cog. I can spend a cog as many times as I want. For every cog that I spend, I will get 1 yellow die. Oops, sorry, Albert. There's also the same thing here, but this is for red dice. And here's one for blue dice. And like I said, this is all random, so it changes every game. But that's pretty much the different actions that are on the board. There is one more thing I forgot to mention. Each character card has this little symbol right here that matches this token that you have. And at any time during the race phase, you may flip this token over and take the action of this card. You can do it whenever you want. In this case, if I flipped over the token, Albert Einstein would generate me either a red, a blue, or a yellow cube. And when Nikola Tesla flips his over, he will get to choose if he wants a yellow die or to remove a yellow die from his jalopy.
So now, what do I think of Steampunk Rally by Roxley Games? I had an opportunity to play this 2-player with my wife, as well as a 4-player with my gaming group, and I think it's a very clever game. I like all the combo building that you can make. I like rolling the dice. I think that adds a luck factor to the game, and it makes it fun and exciting. The racing element is great. I think it's a very strong racing game. I'm not usually a huge fan of drafting cards, but in this case it works pretty well because every card you get, you can either use or discard, and either way you're going to get something beneficial for yourself. I know people love 7 Wonders, and I'm one of those people that doesn't like 7 Wonders too much because it just seems so, I don't know, chaotic, I guess, and everybody's doing something at one time, and I don't get that feeling with this game. I think the drafting works well. I think it's streamlined, and I love all the combos that you can build with your jalopy. You literally and figuratively are building an engine to make your machine move, and I think it's a very clever use of theme. I like all the inventors, and the inventors are thematic too. Like Nikola Tesla does better with electricity, and Albert Einstein, you can get different resources. So it really plays into this whole theme of, hey, you're really an inventor and you are building a machine to race around. How would that inventor do it? And I'm really excited to try all the different inventors. I think it's going to add a great replayability to the game. Not only that, but the courses change dramatically if you flip them over onto the harder side. And you can use them, you can do one hard side and one easy side. So I think it's a very good value for the money. I think the component quality is amazing. The dice are nice quality. They're beautiful. The artwork is incredible. The card stock leaves a little to be desired, but I'll sleeve them and it won't be that big of a problem. I think overall, this is a great game. If you like drafting, or if you like racing, or even if you like combo building, this game has it all, and it has it. So check it out, definitely. Steampunk Rally, I think it's available at roxleygames.com currently, and look forward to hearing what you think.